UFC Macau. These are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown. I'm looking forward to talking about each of the matchups on this card. So make sure you guys smash the likes. If you're new, subscribe it up, turn the post notifications on. Make sure you share the video too. And also note, I will be live for the entire UFC Macau fight card Saturday, 3 a.m. Eastern time. Definitely strange hours for this card, but I'm excited to witness it all live. I hope you guys join me. For some of you, you're going to be up damn late. For others, you'll be waking up super early. But the show, I'm telling you, it must go on. And we're going to bring the fire at 3 a.m. Let's jump into the first fight on the card, which is Mahashate Hayisaer versus Nikolas Motta. I like Mahashate a lot in this fight. I'm going to pick him to win. I think he's got a technical striking edge, and as long as he isn't caught in the first round, he should be good to knock out Nikolas Motta in the second or third. Mahashate is pretty skilled. He's got power in his left hook. He's got pretty good kicks from the outside, even decent straight punches too. I like his striking game, and I think it's kind of easy to overlook him because of a bad loss to Slava Claus, and then before that, Huffa Garcia. But against a Nikolas Motta, who's a flawed power puncher, I think he's got a pretty good chance to win. It's really going to be, can Motta catch him really quick? Like, I really feel like if Motta's to win, it's in the first round or bust. He's got power in his hands, 1,000%, explosive hooks. He's got knockout ability. We saw it against Tom Nolan, but Tom Nolan's chinny. I don't think Mahashate is necessarily chinny. I feel like he eats a good shot. He has knockout power, but he also can win decisions and outpoint opponents. He's been working with the Fight Ready team. At least he was before his last fight. And I think that's a good thing for him here. Say what you want about Gabriel Benitez. Mahashate winning that fight, I think, is still impressive in comparison to the opponent that he's facing off against this weekend. Nikolas Motta's wins in the UFC are Tom Nolan, who's a busted prospect, and Cameron Van Camp, who is in BKFC losing fights now. I don't think that Nikolas Motta is super high caliber. He's 31, so his style is his style. It's forward pressure, brawling style, looking for a knockout. If the knockout doesn't come, he's probably getting knocked out. And I think Mahashate is a more calculated fighter. I think he has more technical ability. He has a much higher ceiling, and he's only 24, nearly 25. I think Mahashate could look better each and every time he fights, whereas I don't really feel the exact same with Motta. I think he is who he is. And I'm going to say Mahashate stops him in the second round. I'm going Mahashate TKO, minus 210 for Mahashate, plus 180 for Nikolas Motta. I'm riding with my guy Mahashate to pull through. Of course, it's under 1.5 plus 120. I would say, fight is live to start round 2. I think Motta comes out hard. Mahashate picks his shots. They could tie up a bit. Maybe even Mahashate in the clinch, throwing some knees and elbows. He's the taller guy. He's going to have only a little bit of a reach advantage, but he's got the leg length edge, and Mahashate's a better kicker than Motta. So I'm going Mahashate for the win. I'm calling second round knockout. I think he gets a good W here and remains on the UFC roster. We're also in his side of the world too, over in Macau. So I think that the Chinese prospect has got the upside coming into this week's fights. And I'm going with Mahashate to sleep Nikolas Motta. I think it's going to happen. Let's keep running up. Our next fight on the card, we have Long Xiao versus Quang Li. I'm going to pick Quang Li. I like Quang Li striking more than Long Xiao. I think that he has a bit more punching power. I also feel as though he has better kicks. I think overall, his stand-up skill set is more versatile than Long Xiao. When I watch Long Xiao strike, he's kind of like a crouching striker who kind of ducks into range and then brings pressure shots, but it's not like he's super precise or accurate. It's more like the bulldozer pressure style, and he likes to mix it up in the dirty boxing range and close. And even when you look at his wins on road to UFC, a lot of close wins here. And then obviously Chang Ho Lee split decision, which Chang Ho Lee's a decent prospect. So I guess it's not an awful loss, but Quang Li didn't come from the road to the UFC scene. He came from fighting in LFA and then jumping in on short notice and going 3 hard rounds with Chris Gutierrez. And, you know, he clearly lost the fight, but it was 29-28. He had moments. He got on top a bit in that fight. He landed some decent shots. I think Quang Le can match Long Xiao in every aspect of the game. And I do think he has the power punching edge, but I also feel like he's just a little bit more versatile with his striking technique. Now, what's weird about this fight is when you look at these two, it's like Quang Le 33 with Long Xiao at 26. It's crazy to see the lopsided experience differential between the two. But regardless of that, I think that Quang Le's a talented guy. And I think he can beat Long Xiao. I like Quang Le. Something about Quang Le's debut, going in there 3 hard rounds with Chris Gutierrez and having moments on short notice, is a positive takeaway. He was supposed to be a Contender Series fighter. Unfortunately, you know, gets the call up. I guess fortunately, really. I know it gets like a L on the record, but not a bad loss to Gutierrez. Long Xiao, I mean, he went through the ringer, man. He went the long road, 26-9, and he's not even 27, bro. He's 26 years old, and he's got over 30 fucking fights. This is going to be his 36th fight. That's crazy to me. But a lot of times, you know, these younger guys from Asia, they have a shit ton of fights, and they're, you know, competing on a lower level circuit, fighting all the time. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's all quality in the 26-9. Quang Le has quality opposition. I mean, you can see, you know, a 6-3 guy, record-wise, is not great, but LFA is a quality promotion. I respect the wins for him here. And then on the opposite side, though, you got to respect what Long Xiao is doing, too, as far as the resume. Comparing resume for resume, it makes sense why the odds are essentially even. I think Quang Le is live to win, but it's a close money fight. It's going to be competitive. There'll be moments for both guys. Lee's a bit of an underdog, but just because he's a dog pick doesn't necessarily mean he's the guy you should go bet on. He opened up as the favorite at -170. I think he's a more crafty fighter than Long Xiao. I feel like that's the perfect way to put it. He's a more crafty fighter. Long Xiao, like I said, bulldozer pressure. Quang has a little bit more in the arsenal, and I think he's a little more creative with all of his offensive tools, and I think he should beat the favorite Long Xiao, but pretty much even odds here. What's the over? -200. I don't really love the over here. You're betting on a guy who's 0-1 or a guy who's 0-1. Like, both guys got one UFC fight. Yeah, there are a lot of, you know, fights on the side of Long Xiao, but inexperienced at a super high level. Same to be said about Lee, but if you really compare opposition, I think a loss to Chris Gutierrez is pretty massive for a UFC debut as opposed to a road to UFC loss to Chang Ho Lee. So I'm going to say Quang Le can win this fight against Long Xiao, probably on a decision, but don't be shocked if he finds the knockout. He does have knockout ability. He's got stoppages in LFA. He's got a nice left hook. He's got dangerous high kicks. I like Quang Le to win. Bang, Quang Le for the W. And, you know, I'm a bit of a Quang Le fan, to be honest. Next fight on the card, Launer Kavanagh versus Jose Ochoa. I got to go with Launer Kavanagh, but Jose Ochoa is really talented. It's crazy, bro. Both guys 7-0. Big spot here for Jose Ochoa. He's not known at all, right? He didn't have the hype of getting a violent knockout on Contender Series to build the anticipation for his debut. But Jose Ochoa trains with Charles Oliveira. He's at Chute Box Diego Lima. He's definitely really talented, and I think he's got a decently bright future in the UFC. From what I saw, he's a pretty slick kickboxer. I would say overall, he has skills, like his submission threats are live too. Nasty knees. He likes that signature Chute Box, like jump front kick. Pretty slick head movement. He fights out of the southpaw stance, and I would say he's a pretty snapping kicker on top of it. It's not just flashy stuff. I would say legit prospect, for real legit prospect, and a good test for Launer Kavanagh. The thing is, Launer Kavanagh seems to be like a special talent coming out of the UK. I guess he's Chinese and British, which is a pretty cool mesh. He's got knockout ability, definitely has big power in his punches, very fast hands as well, and he's a well-versed fighter. He's good everywhere, and I think that the knockout power is a factor on the feet. Even though Ochoa is slick, Kavanagh's power can make Ochoa respect him and maybe limit the offensive chaos, because Ochoa, if he feels he's got a big edge on you in the striking, he's willing to get a bit reckless. it could end up being Ochoa recognizing that Kavanagh is really dangerous, because Kavanagh, he comes from a kickboxing base, right? They say he's a multiple-time K1 champ. He's got good abilities on the stand-up, and he's a powerful and explosive flyweight. Definitely one of the rare knockout artists in the flyweight division. And on top of that, he seems pretty well polished in every area. Now, I got to give respect to Ochoa, though, because he is pretty tall at 5'7". He's going to have a 3-inch height advantage, kind of long arms. Kavanagh's got to be careful. I mean, you're fighting a shoot-their-box guy like Jose Ochoa. You could be live to get your neck snatched up, so I definitely think be careful on the takedown attempts. But as they get into striking, Ochoa's got the speed. Kavanagh will land good shots. I see it as being a relatively competitive fight, but Kavanagh with a bit of the power punch advantage. Both guys 7-0, both guys in their damn 20s. Crazy prospect battle. Like, Jose Ochoa is a complete unknown, but leading up to the show, I was like, man, do I pick Ochoa? Like, I almost wanted to, but I was like, nah, I can't. Big win here against Pantoja, right? This guy was from the Brazilian, like, national boxing team, and then he's ran through some, like, lower tier opposition. This fight, he kneed the guy in the balls, and it was a stoppage, but that wasn't fair. Illegal up kick, 2-3. But you see the opposition. To be fair with Lawner Kavanagh, he's beaten a lot of undefeated fighters. Like, that's a big reason that I'm going towards him, is because he's gone out there and he's taken guys' O's before. This isn't a first-time thing for him. Whereas Jose Ochoa, you know, he took this recent opponent's O, right? Pantoja over in LFA. And that was a cool Novo União versus shoot-the-box battle. But a lot of mid-tier journeyman as of recent, and I think Lawner Kavanagh is going to be a bit of a jump up from that, and I think Kavanagh wins the fight. Predicting a knockout, I don't think I can go out and say that, because I really respect Ochoa's slickness. He's got good head movement. I see potential for 3 hard rounds with Kavanagh getting it on the cards, and maybe he showcases his physical strength a bit, potentially getting on top of Ochoa. I'm really excited to see what Ochoa can offer at a high level. We've never seen him at a high level before, and I think it will tell all here. So Kavanagh minus 360 as the favorite. Does he deserve to be minus 360? Probably not. Jose Ochoa, I think, is talented. Maybe I'm overhyping the tape that I watched on him, but, like, looking at him fight, he reminds me a bit of, like, a Charles Oliveira. There's definitely similarities with certain aspects of his style, and I think he's got a lot of promise, and he's also tall and long. So this is no walk in the park for Kavanagh, so it's so interesting to see just how wide the odds are. But, of course, it comes down to, you know, opposition. And let's be real, there's a lot of hype on Kavanagh right now. I do think it goes over 1.5 at minus 185. I think we're live to go all 3. I'm kind of feeling like Kavanagh wins the decision. He's tested in this fight, but I think ultimately he's going to be the better man between the two. And in a competitive battle of prospects, Lawner Kavanagh takes it. Live for a 30-27. Don't be shocked if it's 29-28. Kavanagh needs to be worried about his neck if he's shooting on, you know, takedowns at any point, and he gets a little reckless out there with the attempts and leaves his neck out. A shoot-the-box Diego Lima guy has got nasty strangles, regardless if he's more so known for, you know, showcasing the stand-up abilities. I'm going to go with Kavanagh, but Ochoa is going to be on my radar from here on out, and I'm anticipating a pretty respectable UFC debut performance, even in loss. So Kavanagh for the win, but Ochoa's a good talent. Good talent. Next fight on the card, it brings us to the slew of road to UFC championships. One of them got canceled. It was the Zhu versus Bin fight, which unfortunately got canceled. I think of all of them, that might have been the one I was most hyped for, but is what it is. Let's jump to the Bantamweight Tournament Championship for Road to UFC. We got Su Young Yu versus a man whose name I made sure that I'd know how to say, Balgin Jella Isa. So I am going to pick Balgin Jella Isa to win against Su Young Yu. The hype on the broadcast when Su Young Yu was fighting is like, oh, he's like a Habib. I'm like, really? And then you watch him fight, and you're like, well, he's got good takedowns and control. He had a nice throw in his most recent fight where he was able to, like, cartwheel his way to the back. But I don't think he was, like, super impressive with wrestling. He got taken down and controlled a bit, too. So I definitely don't see the Habib Nurmagomedov comparisons. But, you know, the commentary has to hype up the prospects, especially road to UFC. say I'm a hater, maybe you guys will agree. Road to UFC has brought some of the most mediocre talent to the UFC, as opposed to Contender Series, where the elite savages have been coming off that show. Road to UFC just really hasn't found somebody that's had great success, but eventually it's going to happen, I'm sure. I don't think it's Su Young Yu or Balgan, to be fair. Now, Balgan, he's got sneaky power. He's an aggressive pressure fighter. I like his boxing better than Su Young Yu. And I also think he can match the wrestling, and he's got pretty good physical strength. So if Yu is, shooting for these trips and throws on the inside, I can see Balgan stifling the attacks and then landing the harder punches. I see it as a close back and forth fight. I would not be betting money down on road to UFC fights, especially like this specific matchup. But if you're chasing underdog money, last time I checked, Balgan was sitting at the plus side. But, normally there's a lot more reliable bets to make. This right here, I always say betting on Contender Series is risky. I think this is like even riskier than betting Contender Series. So I'm going to pick Balgan to win the fight over Su Young Yu, and I think that he lands bigger punches, going to be a little bit taller and longer. I think that gives him an edge in the striking, but on top of that, that should give him an ability to use leverages to fight off takedown attempts. So Balgan's the pick, but betting on these guys, come on, man. Come on. Like plus 122 is kind of weird to me. I was surprised to see Balgan as the damn dog. I thought for sure that he would be the favorite. So Balgan, Jella Issa plus 122 with you sitting at minus 142. We're going with the underdog in this fight, man. Not just trying to pick the dog. I just think he wins the fight. Size advantage is a factor. I think he's got a little more power, and I don't think Yu's that good at wrestling. Over is minus 170, probably. A lot of the fights on the damn road to the UFC tournament tend to go into the later stages. Like you can look, recent wins. I mean, there's a finish there. But a lot of the fights for the road to UFC be like hard-fought decisions left and right. And I think this one could potentially be no different than that. I'm going to say Balgan pulls off a hard-fought win. We're going with Balgan. Jella Issa, he's live for a decision. Could he sting up Yu and shock him with a sub? I don't know. I still respect Yu's defensive grappling ability. I think he can eat a good punch too. I see a competitive fight, but Balgan being the bigger guy, you got to favor him here. And I'm going to say he wins this fight and becomes the road to UFC bantamweight champ. And he's a pretty big bantamweight at 5'9". He looks pretty large. He's not lacking of muscle. He doesn't look like anorexic or anything out there. So Balgan for the W. Let's keep running. More road to UFC action. We got a trio of it. Next one, we got Kiru Sahota versus Dong Hoon Choi. This fight is going to be for the flyweight championship. Listen, I'm going to go with Choi to win the fight, but I want to shout out Sahota. He's representing India. He's an Indian savage, I would say, and he's a freakishly tall guy for 125. I mean, he's 5'10" with a 73-inch reach, man. So really built like, honestly, like a bigger version of Matt Schnell. He's got like Sean O'Malley size at 125. Pretty skinny, though, so I don't really think he has a lot of punching power. Has decent volume striking and kicks well from the outside. I would say in general, he strikes well from distance. And I don't know, I just have a weird like Matt Schnell comparison for him. 2 W's on road to UFC, decision wins. On the opposite side, Dong Hoon Choi, he's good at weathering storms. That's what I like about him. The Indian dude who we fought here, Angad, he won a split decision. That dude looked like a monster. To be honest, I'd probably favor Angad to beat Sahota if they were to face off, because that dude was built like an absolute freight train. And I feel like even though Choi is at a big disadvantage in height and reach, I don't know if Sahota can keep him at bay for all 3 rounds and pick him apart. And I just don't think that it's super likely that Sahota is going to be able to chin Dong Hoon Choi, who's an undefeated prospect with some promise. I feel like Dong Hoon Choi is going to have the strength edge. He's got a judo base to his credit, and I think potentially as they tie up, that could lead to takedowns. Overall, Choi's striking's not bad. I feel like he's got pretty good timing. He's got decent punches. He's kind of fast with his hands. He's got good leg kicks. But like I said, good at weathering the storms. I think if you have to look at like who is destined to finish this fight stronger, I would really favor Choi to put it on Sahota late, whereas we could potentially see Sahota wilt. Listen, a lot of Indian fighters in the UFC men's division specifically, they haven't been doing well. So as of right now, until they start to prove me otherwise, it's hard to go against the South Korean savage like Dong-Hoon Choi. I'm going to say Dong-Hoon Choi wins the fight. Probably going to be a hard 3-rounder. Picking method of victory here. I know Sahota was finished several fights back. It's live that Choi would put him away because he's got a lot of knockouts, like, you know, outside of the higher level opposition. But 2 straight split decisions. Don't be shocked if it's all 3, especially a flyweight fight. I'm going to say Choi wins a decision here. As far as the odds, he's like a -152 favorite with Sahota at +132. Odds are, you know, relatively close, as they should be here. Over 2.5 is probably going to happen at -260, but it's a road to UFC fight, so bet it at your own risk. These aren't UFC fights, so for me, like official picks-wise for the UFC, I don't really feel as though these necessarily are counting towards it. I don't know. Some people in the comments will disagree, but for me, I don't think so. Even though these are technically fights on a UFC card, these are road to UFC finale fights, not legit UFC fights, and, you know, not necessarily the highest level of the game. Seen what I've seen from Choi, I like the ability to outdog Sahota as the ultimate factor for my pick here. And I'm going to say that he outworks him over the 3 rounds and takes a decision. And unfortunately, not an Anshul Jubilee 2.0 road to UFC winner incoming. Let's keep running up. Next fight on the card, we got ladies going after it for a road to UFC title. It's Xiaocan Feng versus Ming. I like Xiaocan to win this fight. I'm picking her in this matchup because of her striking prowess. Like, if you watch, she picks shots really nicely. I'm not trying to, like, compare her to some of the men's fighters, but, like, you know, out of all the girls, like, her slickness is kind of rare to see. Comfortability striking, pick shots from the outside, very calm. Her stand-up game is really a pleasure to watch. I don't know. It's like, I don't know why. Like, in some senses, it reminds me of Randy Brown a little bit, which is the most random comparison ever. Like, but I kind of see, like, reminiscent aspects, right? Hands low, slick from the outside, patient, doesn't do as good on the inside, not really super strong, but still I would say relatively good at fending off grappling attacks. I did write down, though, I feel like she does have a slightly suspect ground game. She was locked in a guillotine from Mount at the end of her last fight, but she was dominating pretty much the whole fight prior to round 3, so we have to kind of, you know, rate that highly. To be fair, before what is the name of the opposition? Now I'm losing it. I see her face, but I can't think of the name. It's a loss for Feng. Na Liang. Before Na Liang got to the UFC, she actually beat Xiaocan Feng. But, yo, Xiaocan Feng is 22 right now. She was a baby when they fought. But she did lose that fight, and obviously Na Liang's a strong grappler. I don't think Ming is going to have that same level of takedown ability. I literally wasn't impressed with the road to UFC performances. She's tough. She's got decent dexterity with the legs. She's got decent bounce with her striking. She's got okay hands. She's kind of quick, kind of decent at kickboxing. But as far as the striking goes, I see a massive advantage for Feng. And then I ask myself, is Ming going to consistently land takedowns? I don't think so. I think that Feng's going to be able to keep her at bay, pick her shots. It's not going to shock me if Feng finds a counter shot KO, because she does have a KO. She took on actually another Indian fighter and singed there and absolutely beat the fuck out of that girl. Had her in mount. Like, that fight was not even fair. It looked like that other girl shouldn't be fighting as a pro MMA fighter. But regardless of that, Feng beat her in the way that, you know, she should have. Mingxi's a weird one. Her last fight was a coin flip, split decision, could have went the other way. She was a big underdog in that fight, though. And now here, she's an underdog again against Feng. I don't think she cashes back-to-back as a big dog. I think that Xiaocan Feng, she'll win this thing. I think she's a talented prospect. I think she's got way more upside potential at 22 versus Mingxi at 30. I'm going to say Feng, knockout or decision. She could be live to find that chin. She's a 3-1 favorite, but she's talented. It makes sense. Mingxi plus 240 is like kind of a, I don't know, potentially clearer outcome fight than some of these other road to UFC fights. Minus 400 for decision. Crazy how wide that is for decision. I know Feng probably is more likely to win a decision, but she's got 4 knockout wins. She's got 1 submission. Half of her wins are finishes. I got to say, I mean, half of her fights actually are finishes, right? 1 loss by finish as well. Mingxi on the opposite side. I like the doctor. Nick, is she really a doctor? I actually don't know for sure. She was knocked out. How long ago was that knockout? She was KO'd by knees in 2018. Long time ago. She's got a lot of fights, a lot of wins, but like, look at some of the records. 0-0, 0-0, 0-0. Taking on debuting fighters when you have like 15 pro fights, I don't think that's a good look by any means, or in any sense of the word. So I'm going to say Xiaocan Feng is the better talent, better prospect, a lot younger, a lot taller, a lot longer, 5-inch height advantage, okay, 6-inch reach advantage, and I think talent to make it far. At least, you know, when I say far, I'm not necessarily saying top 15 for sure. We got to see more. But I think at the very least, UFC contract and several fights in the UFC. So Feng should win. All right, we are done with Road to UFC. Let's now jump to our featured prelim of the night. It's Carlos Hernandez versus Nayam Jargal Tumendemberel. I am picking Carlos Hernandez, but I won't lie to you. Tumendemberel has me very interested as a fan because he's got a sick look and he's got a crazy-ass name. But I can't be confident in picking him against an OG now at this point in Carlos Hernandez when 2 fights ago, like, he could have lost the Topnoi Kiram decision. And that dude's 9-4. He's got L's, man. He's like 9-6 now, I think. And this is going to be the guy that takes out Hernandez. Say what you want about Carlos Hernandez, but 2 fights ago, it was a loss to Tatsuro Taira, who's a top contender in the world. Tumendemberel is winning a competitive, maybe even controversial decision against Topnoi Kiram last time out. He's talented, though. He followed that up with a nice submission in the fight after the fact there. But 6-2, come on. Like, the level difference is crazy. Where we have Carlos Hernandez, yes, not been high level in the UFC, but still has UFC wins over Victor Altamirano and Denise Bondar. Did a lot of damage to Bondar there. Losses to Alan Nascimento, who's an absolute submission ace. Tatsuro Taira, who's one of the best in the world. And Ray Saruya, who's a really talented up-and-coming grappler. And Hernandez had moments in that fight. It wasn't a washout. He lost it 29-28. And he battle-tested Saruya. I don't think Nayam Jargal Tumendemberel has that same grappling level as Saruya. Even though he does have like a judo and sambo base, I don't think it's as creative nor as offensive with submission threats. Where he does tend to shine a bit is in the striking. But I see Carlos Hernandez with the tight Mexican boxing style as difficult. I don't know. I just kind of look at this fight as flip a damn coin, bro. It could go either way. You want to go for the underdog, Tumendemberel? Listen, 86% of the people are doing it. He's a big dog. Does he deserve to be this big as a dog? Plus 179? Maybe not. It's minus 209 for Hernandez. Really, though, on the opposite front, it's like, who in their right mind wants to lay heavy chalk on Hernandez, who's 2-3 in the UFC? I'm going to favor UFC high-level experience over exciting prospect who gets me interested, who has hype, but also, you know, has aura, right? Because the vibe is real coming in with that sick tattoo. Tumendemberel seems like a fucking hitman. That's the vibe that I get from him. With the nickname Art of the Knockout, I mean, come on. A lot of things as a fan push me towards him, but as an analyst, how I break it down is Hernandez could potentially threaten with takedowns. I could see him putting Tumendemberel in iffy spots on the ground. I think in the striking department, it's competitive. Hernandez is actually pretty quick. He's definitely got a 3-round gas tank, and he is a substantial step up in competition from anything Tumendemberel has seen. He's levels above Topnoi Kiram. He's levels above Petr Yan. I think Carlos Hernandez is live to win a hard-fought decision here. Tumendemberel is young at 26, and he's a promising guy, but I just can't pick him, man. He's a Mongolian savage. He's got the look. He's got all of Tapology on his side, and maybe you guys in the comments will be picking him too. The odds, though, favor Hernandez, and they're giving big plus money for Naim Jargal Tumendemberel because there's no evidence really that tells me he has the ability to beat Carlos Hernandez. Could he do it? You could hypothesize and say, yes, he'll look better this fight and he'll beat Carlos. But for me, how I play it out in my head is UFC experience, advantage Carlos. Wrestling, advantage Carlos. Cardio, advantage Carlos. So I got 3 for sures here. When I think about the striking, competitive, Tumendemberel is better at kicking probably, and I'd say he's better with straights from range. I would lean towards Hernandez, maybe better with hands in close, but Tumendemberel potentially more dangerous in the clinch with elbows and knees. Does have maybe more of like a versatile Muay Thai striking style, but I still think the volume and pace of Hernandez could be a problem, and there's just too many unknowns. So Tumendemberel, good luck if you're going down on the dog side. I don't think Hernandez is the lock of the week or anything like that, but I think he's a tough OG that everybody's picking against, but for some reason the odds tell a different story. So Carlos Hernandez live to win. What's crazy is this. At open, Tumendemberel is minus 350, but now he's plus 179. The flip of the odds in the past week is very strange to me. Very, very, very strange. Now Hernandez, good size favorite. I guess Hernandez was seen as the dog attack from many. Now he's the favorite. So really, the odds don't make sense here. It's a 50-50 fight. Throw the odds out the window. I think Hernandez is live to win a competitive decision against a guy who's unproven at the highest level. Probably going over 2.5 at minus 155. Let's see. Can Carlos Hernandez avoid the pink slip? Because if he loses, it's going to be 2-4 in the UFC, 3 losses in a row, and probably his UFC release. For Tumendemberel, 8-0. Shit, if he wins, he's 9-0. Now he's a real promising prospect. We'll find out. I'm excited for the fight. I'm really excited to see these guys face off because Hernandez is 5'8" to Tumendemberel 5'7". But in my brain, like I'm thinking, like Tumendemberel looks a lot taller. I can't wait till they face off one another. Friday is going to be an interesting day because we'll get to give this fight a really in-depth look again after actually seeing them go face-to-face. And we'll see if Tumendemberel maybe is a little taller than 5'7". Because I want to know. I don't know. He seems like he is. Got the reach of somebody a lot taller than 5'7". Seems like he's bigger than Carlos. And if he is, maybe that caused a pick flip. We'll see. But the stats tell me otherwise. I'm going Hernandez. Close decision. Outworking Tumendemberel. And we'll definitely be checking this fight out again Friday. So tune into the weigh-in show. Next fight, it brings us to our main card opener. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe it up. We got Volkan Oezdemir versus Carlos Ulberg. I'm going to be going with Carlos Ulberg to beat Volkan Oezdemir. I think that he can outstrike Volkan in a technical manner. Volkan Oezdemir is very good at pressure striking, using his hands, landing big shots in more of that yellow and red zone. When he gets into the mid and the close range, he's able to land some hammers on a lot of these guys that have slower reflexes than Carlos Ulberg. Also, a lot of those guys who have less ability to move, right? They're just simply less mobile as strikers than Carlos Ulberg, and also guys that are less calculated with strikes from the outside, specifically a jab. The thing is with Carlos Ulberg, he has a well-defined kickboxing style, and he fought in professional kickboxing. I think that level of experience gives him an edge over Volkan Oezdemir in this fight because he's going to be able to keep the powerhouse at bay and then sting Oezdemir with counters, which could potentially dwindle the confidence for Volkan Oezdemir and maybe even lead to Ulberg letting some hammers fly and end up getting a damn knockout. Hard to pick a knockout against Oezdemir, though. Normally, his chin's pretty good. You know, he's gone distance with guys like Magomed Ankalaev. Krylov out-grappled him, but Magomed Ankalaev's a good striker he went long with. Did get brutally knocked out by Prohashka. I think that Carlos Ulberg is live to catch him with something, though. Carlos Ulberg countershot KO. Like I said, he's a mobile striker, and I think there's a chance that he causes Ulberg to bite on something, overextend himself, or rather Ulberg causes Oezdemir to overextend himself, and then Ulberg lands the counter, specifically that left hook. I know Oezdemir normally his chin is holding up nicely, but it's been cracked before, he's been put out before, and Carlos Ulberg is a very well fine-tuned kickboxer who I think has gotten very comfortable in the octagon. This version of Carlos Ulberg I'll anticipate is better than last time. Because every time we see Ulberg fight, he looks better. Started his UFC career off with a damn loss to Kennedy and Zechiku. But you look as of late, sleeping Alonzo Menafield in 12 seconds. Beating Dawoon Zhang, clearly outstriking him, and then ends up pulling off a late submission. And Dawoon Zhang's got some dog in him. Poteria, of course he kills Poteria. Poteria's a journeyman. Negomedianu turned out to be a bust, and then Tefan Chukwi, obviously, he, sleeps. He was an underdog in the Tefan Chukwi fight. Crazy looking back, right? Can you imagine the odds now? Minus 4,000 if they fought. Be bigger than Bo Nickel versus somebody's odds. Volkan Oezdemir, 2 straight wins, though. Johnny Walker and Bogdan Gushkov, but both guys are flawed strikers who are a little panicky at times on the feet, subpar defensively. And I will also say, like the Bogdan Gushkov fight, Oezdemir showcased the grappling. Gushkov has a hole in grappling, I feel, because even in the first round with Ryan Spann, he was getting bodied. Carlos Ulberg is a city kickboxing guy, and I promise you he has very fine-tuned takedown defense. So if things start going bad for Oezdemir on the feet, I don't think he has the option to switch it to wrestling. I don't think he has a chance to mix in the takedowns and dominate Ulberg there. I think he's forced to strike, and I think it's very live that Carlos Ulberg will be chinning him, and I think Carlos Ulberg is definitely on track to being a top 5 contender here in 2025. Plus 203 for Oezdemir, Ulberg minus 238. I like Ulberg. I'm going to pick Ulberg to win. I don't like the 1.5 tag. I would say like under 2.5 is live, but I just like Ulberg or potentially Ulberg knockout if the plus money is good enough, if there's enough upside on it. I think Ulberg's definitely a parlay piece here. I like his fight IQ. I like his refined striking skills, and I also like his distance management. Those are keys to win a fight here with Volkan Oezdemir, who's good at pressure fighting, good at boxing in close and landing bombs, but against guys that can't keep him away. Ulberg can definitely do that, and I think he's going to shine in this fight. I'm going Ulberg, knockout. The hype continues to build, and I think he's got a big 2025 incoming, and I'm damn excited for it because he's a fun striker. Let's keep running up the card. Next fight, we have ladies going after it here. Wang versus Gabriela Fernandes. Listen, I patented the Wang gang when she made her UFC debut. Of course, I'm picking her in this fight against Gabriela Fernandes. Wang has a win over Shevchenko in kickboxing. She is simply put a sensational striker. She's really clean with her stand-up, doesn't have a lot of fat on her punches, gets to the target incredibly fast, is very comfortable on the feet, kind of like the slickness more that you see in the men's divisions. She's definitely one of those rare strikers that if she's able to fend off some of the better grapplers in this weight class, she could 1000% make a splash towards the higher level at 125. She's dangerous, super dangerous on the feet. Knockout power, big knockout in her debut, picks her shots well, seems to have quality grappling defense, good fight IQ, and I think that she is going to beat Gabriela Fernandes, but method of victory is interesting. Gabriela Fernandes, in her own right, is a really talented striker. She's got a lot of explosion, but she's a lot more wild than Wang. Like, she has a lot more fat on her punches. When you watch her throw, she's like swinging from next week type shit. Whereas Wang is just a lot more clean, right? Straight to the target, best way to get there. Fernandes likes to loop it around. And if she hits you, it's stinging shots. Like, she thuds up some punches, but I don't think she can put Wang away. I think that Wang is going to probably end up knocking her out. It might be Fernandez's toughness on display, and maybe she's got that good of a chin. But I also have to say, I worry with a Fernandes about her gas tank too. And On top of everything, Fernandes is not a high caliber grappler, though she's a Brazilian fighter. Both of her UFC losses are against guys that exposed her wrestling. Now, Jazz Davicius, absolute savage. That's not a bad loss. Teresa Bleda, 50-50. She's okay. And she, was able to get to Gabriela Fernandes. Last time, close decision win over Carly Judice and a good back and forth. I just think Wang is live to knock her out. Super talented striker, highly experienced kickboxer, precise and accurate. I'll say decision or knockout. I lean towards later knockout, but it really just depends how much power Wang's really got. Because if Fernandes is like throwing these wide shots, and at times you watch recent fights where she'll put herself in the danger zone looking for these wide punches, and then she's way out of range. But a lot of girls don't have confidence in their power shots to like load up and throw hard, where you're not going to get that with Wang. Like Wang's going to look to throw death punches. So I'm going to say Wang is live for the counter shot KO, and I'll say knockout. But it's live for a decision too. Minus 750, really wide odds for Wang. Plus 550 for Fernandes. I think Wang is going to win. Over is minus 160. Nah. I don't know, but I wouldn't go chasing the under. The odds suck. Wang's a massive favorite because she's supposed to be the next big thing. I've been confident in her since the debut. That confidence has not weaned at all, especially in another favorable matchup. Like if she was fighting a really good wrestler here, maybe I'd have some anxiety, but I think against a fellow striker, Wang is going to be able to showcase the goods, and I'm picking her to beat Gabriela Fernandes. Next fight on the card, we have Kenan Song versus Muslim Salikhov. I'm going to go with Kenan Song. I think he can win. Muslim Salikhov's 40, man. He's still kind of slick, but he's not as quick as he used to be. I just see like evidence of a slowdown. And last time out, he beat a fellow older welterweight in Ponzinibbio by split decision. He does still have pretty snappy kicks, though. Like those are never going to go away. And in his prime, the dude had great spins. He's a creative striker. But a lot of looping punches to get to the target. I think that Song is a little cleaner with boxing, but I would definitely favor Salikhov in the kicking department. But Song's pretty precise with his hands. He mixes up good combos in close range. He can close the gap pretty well. He's got a nice lead hook. I honestly have to say, I think that the side of Song is going to have a boxing speed advantage. And I don't think Salikhov is knocking him out with the spinning heel kick. And I think stringing punches together, Song is going to find success in this fight. I feel like he's not a knockout hitter per se. He did drop Ian Gary. He did buckle Jusei a little bit, but he's more of a stinging puncher. So Kenan Song with stinging shots can win in a gritty fight here against Muslim Salikhov. I'm going to pick him. I think he can outwork the 40-year-old. I think he's going to be a little more mobile, a little faster. Like I said, a little cleaner with the hands. Salikhov's kicks are good, but I think Song is going to crowd the kicker, and I think he's going to get probably a hard-fought decision win. Picking him by knockout. Like, I know Randy Brown chinned him, but he went distance with Dalby. And I know Leach chinned him, but Song is not to the level of Randy Brown or Leach. But I think that Song has the striking prowess, especially, him being 34 and Salikhov being 40, to do enough to win here against the Russian fighter. So I'm going to go with Kenan Song to win, but definitely not a walk-in-the-park fight. I feel like it's going to be gritty and close. I think Salikhov will have moments, but Song might sting him with some better straights. Minus 170 for Salikhov with Song at plus 145. I guess I'm going with Song the dog, but it's not because I'm looking for the dog. It's just I think a little cleaner with the hands. Minus 190 probably. I feel like Song wins. I feel like the chin's been holding up. 2 and 3, or just 2 out of the last 3. Rick Glenn, obviously Rick Glenn's mostly just a grappler, and Song wrecked him on the feet. And then, the Jusei lost, but he had some moments. He didn't get knocked out, to be fair. Rolando Bedoya, he exposed him. And then Ian Gary knocked him out, but he dropped Gary. Max Griffin KO'd him, but he was still kind of tough in that fight. Muslim Salikhov, the split with Ponzi, the knockout loss to Brown. A Dalby loss is not bad. Andre Fialho win doesn't mean much in 2024. And then Leach knocking him out is a rough loss as well. So I think Salikhov at 40 might be a little bit too close to the tail end, where Song's going to have a bit better boxing. And I think he can sit in there and make it work. So I'm going to say Song wins, man. It's crazy that Song at one point fought Adesanya And look now, you know, fighting in the UFC, not at necessarily a super high level, but still against, you know, decent welterweight like Muslim Salikhov. I think that the assassin can take out the king of Kung Fu, especially a 40-year-old king of Kung Fu. As far as reach, 71.5 to 70. People seem to be picking Song a bit as a dog. I guess he's a popular people's dog, but you can't be confident on the Salikhov side at 40. And I think Song with the hands a little better. We're going with him. Let's keep running up the card. Our next fight, featured fight. We got Ozzy Diaz versus Mingyang Zhang. I'm going to go with Mingyang Zhang. Zhang is probably going to dust Ozzy Diaz, but Ozzy Diaz is a gangster, though. I got to give Diaz some respect, man. Dude is scrappy. He got knocked out bad by Joe Pyfer, but is turned up with 2 straight knockout wins. Took out ex-UFC fighter Bevon Lewis last time. And, you know, brought the pressure to him and broke him. He kind of has like a slickster boxing stance, but his style is a lot more in-your-face brawling. Definitely has a bit of knockout power. Usually, like, has the ability to break guys. Works a pretty nice jab. I would say he's a tough, banging striker who is good at making people uncomfortable by dealing with the storm and then landing big shots. But the chin's been tested, to be fair. He's been put out before. Been put out bad before. I mean, Joe Pyfer violently chinned him. Mingyang Zhang is a pretty scrappy striker. I'd say he's a little bit quicker with his hands. And I do think Mingyang Zhang has a bit more punching power. He hits really hard. He fights well sitting in the pocket and mixing it up. He's got a big knockout of Brenson Ribeiro, which actually has kind of aged well. Because after that loss, Ribeiro loses a close decision to Gadzi Yasulov. Granted, you know, cage grabs and stuff, but still went distance. And then fight after that, he gets that decision over Kyle Machado. So since the debut for Ribeiro, which was a vicious loss, Mingyang Zhang been sitting on the sidelines. Ribeiro been doing work. I think it's just kind of upped the interest in what Mingyang Zhang's future is, because he's a talented guy who's super young as well. Mingyang Zhang is 26 and he's 17-6 as a pro. I mean, the dude hasn't lost since he was 21. So as a grown man, he's really come into his own. He's got a lot of pro fights, a ton of experience. Being 8 years younger with, you know, more than double the fights is something that I think is interesting here between these two. But like I said, a lot of guys from the Asia circuit, they be fighting all the time. But Mingyang Zhang was fighting as a young man. I mean, if you dig back to his debut, well, how old was he in his debut? 2014. How old is he in a debut? Bro, he debuted in fighting at 16. He debuted in fighting at 16. Isn't that insane? Pro debut at 16 years old. It's crazy. Askar Mozarov brutally knocked him out. We'll forget about it. That was a bad loss. But again, he was a little kid back then. He's on a nice streak. Brenson Ribeiro, Tucos, vicious knockouts. Hasn't been able to be consistent. He's been out for a little while, but I'm happy to see him back. Power striker. Fun style, good brawler, likes to mix it up. Perfect matchup with him and Ozzy Diaz. I actually think there's a picture-perfect fight. I think if Mingyang Zhang can sleep Brenson Ribeiro, I think he can also find the chin of Ozzy Diaz. So I'm going to go Mingyang Zhang by violent knockout in what's going to be a pretty fun fight. Ozzy Diaz plus 260. He's a big underdog here. Zhang minus 310. I'll tell you this, if Diaz lives up to the last name and the chin holds up like a Nate Diaz and Mingyang Zhang tries to go for it in round 1, he could end up being a busted prospect come round 2 if he gasses. Over 1.5 plus 170. It's so dangerous to like try to risk it on over. Like, it's cool that it's at plus money, but the style of Zhang and the style of Diaz is absolute violence, and they're both willing to take big hits to land big hits, and I think that's just kind of a given that this fight is going to end inside distance. So live for a knockout in 1, 2, or 3. I think Zhang's a little more explosive, a little faster, a little cleaner with the boxing. Diaz, like I said, he's good at breaking people, he's tough, but is he going to be able to eat a clean left hook from Zhang or a clean right over the top? And is he going to be able to eat multiple? Because I think he's definitely going to get hit with multiple. I don't think so. And the recent wins for him against Chuck Campbell and Bevon Lewis don't equal a win over Mingyang Zhang. So Zhang, the Mountain Tiger representing China, the 26-year-old prospect, I think he knocks out Ozzy Diaz in a pretty high-impact fight. And I think this could be one of the most underrated bangers of the whole card. Next fight, it brings us to our co-main event of the evening. We got Yan Xiaonan versus Tabitha Ricci. I'm picking Tabitha Ricci but I respect Yan Xiaonan's striking a lot. I'm picking Tabitha Ricci because she is 1,000% better at grappling than Yan Xiaonan. In the last fight, Xiaonan was put in really bad spots by the champion, Weili Zhang. Now, I understand Tabitha Ricci is not the champion, but we have seen Yan Xiaonan in bad positions on the ground multiple times. We saw her lose by TKO to Carla Esparza, and we saw her lose a lot in grappling with Weili. Now, she got a nice knockout of Andrade. She got a nice competitive decision win over Dern, but a majority decision win over Dern at this time is not super impressive. The knockout of Andrade always will be. The Marina Rodriguez split was a robbery. Tabitha Ricci's a weird one, man. 2 losses in the UFC, but like she's looked real good. 4-1 in her last 5. That loss is a close decision with Lupi Godinez. She was then able to beat Tisha Pennington in a close fight. Pennington kind of scrambly as they come. Very hard to control on the ground. And then Angela Hill win and OG. This is a legit jumping competition, though, for Ricci. To be fair, this is the make or break fight for Ricci. The UFC has been pushing her so hard. They want to see her succeed, I think. And taking on Yan Xiaonan in China is the fight to put her in title range. I don't know for sure if it's a title next, but at least into the conversation. Xiaonan's a really good striker, but I don't know. I sometimes feel like her striking's a bit overrated. Like, oh, she knocked out Andrade. Yeah, but like Andrade fought like an idiot that fight. She literally just walked forward with her head just sitting there, like, knock me the fuck out, boom, and goes down. Yan Xiaonan's quality on the feet, but I don't think she's like levels and levels above of Tabitha Ricci. Ricci's decent at striking. She's improving every fight. She's younger, 6 years younger to be exact. Xiaonan's already been exposed as having not great grappling. Now, she's tough as fuck and hard to put away. We don't need Tabitha Ricci to win 5 rounds, right? It's a 3-round fight. In a 5-round fight, things would get testy in this one. But in a 3-round fight, I think Tabitha Ricci's going to snag 2 rounds. I think she'll press forward, back Xiaonan up, clinch up with her a bit. I think the striking will be more competitive than some people will be anticipating here. I think Xiaonan with the knockout of Andrade is like so much hype in her stand-up. Ricci's going to have the better grappling. I do think she can time some trips and takedowns. I think she can work from top position. And even if it's not substantial control time, it's enough control time to score points and win the rounds. And this is a 3-round fight, so she only needs 2. And I think Ricci's going to get it 29-28. I think the grappling will be on display. Going to be a close fight. I see competitive moments. Xiaonan's scary as hell, too. Just her look is terrifying. She's definitely got improved grappling, but I still don't think it's going to be to Tabitha Ricci's level. Xiaonan can let some big hooks fly and like big combination punches, but she's not incredibly slick with her striking, but she hits with power. Ricci, developing boxing, decent pressure style, good gas tank, looking better every fight. Beat Angela Hill last time, which I think is impressive. Good clinch pressure and control, good takedowns, good jiu-jitsu. It seems like the stars are aligning for Ricci to win. And everybody's picking Yan Xiaonan. That's interesting. That actually surprises me. The odds for the fight have Yan Xiaonan as a 2-1 favorite. Damn. Wow. Yan Xiaonan's the favorite here at 2-1. I thought it'd be closer. I thought it'd be more like minus 170, to be honest. Or even lower, even minus 140. What was it at open? At open, Xiaonan was minus 175. Okay, I can see where the heads are at creating those odds. It's just, I think Tabitha Ricci can overwhelm Xiaonan, and with the potential grappling threat, I gotta favor her. She's the better grappler for sure. Yes, Xiaonan is probably better at striking, but how much better? Is she that much better at striking that she can keep Ricci off of her the whole time and just pick her apart or knock her out? I don't think so. I think Ricci will have moments where she can land big strikes, but also moments to tie up, control, maybe even jump the back. We saw Yan Xiaonan in a really competitive fight with Mackenzie Dern, and I think that Tabitha Ricci can pull through. I'm going to say Ricci wins this thing. I'm going to say Tabitha Ricci surprises everybody because now she's being slept on. She's normally the favorite. Over is very likely at minus 425. I think this fight's going distance. I think Tabitha Ricci is going to win a 29-28 decision. In a close battle with Yan Xiaonan, Ricci is going to get her hand raised, and I honestly think that sky's the limit then. The UFC been giving her the push. She's been close every damn time, right? I mean, granted, it's not like she got too many losses. Losses are literally to Lupi Godinez on a close split decision, and Manon Fiorot, who I think is arguably the best flyweight in the world. I think Ricci wins. I'm going to say Ricci pulls through. Styles make the fights. Grappling superiority. Xiaonan has struggled against grapplers. We saw her struggle against Carla Esparza. We saw her struggle in moments with Weili Zhang. Even had a close fight with Mackenzie Dern. Thrives against strikers. But with Ricci bringing the takedown threat, I think she'll open up more opportunities in striking. And I do think she garners control time on the ground. We're going with Tabitha Ricci, the baby shark, to pull through. I think she takes this one on the scorecards, 29-28. Next fight, it is our main event of the evening. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe it up. We got Petr Yan versus Deiveson Figueiredo. 5 rounds in this main event, and the reason I'm bringing it up, because I will emphasize 5 rounds is what tells me which side to pick. I'm going with Petr Yan in a 5-round fight. I think in a 3-rounder, yes, Deiveson Figueiredo could probably edge out the first 2. But Petr Yan, in a 5-rounder, I got to favor his speed in the fight, kicking speed specifically, but also in the striking speed. I also think that the volume he could bring heading into 3, 4, and 5 could give Figueiredo problems. Figgy really fights comfortably in these 3-round fights, and he's been looking great in the damn bantamweight division in these 3-round fights. You look at the wins for Figueiredo. Rob Font, dominant decision, subs up Cody Garbrandt, good performance. Marlon Vera picks him apart. None of those 3 wins, though, are near the level of Petr Yan. I think we can all agree. Petr Yan has a loss to Merab, a controversial loss to O'Malley, and a split decision to Aljamain Sterling. But outside of that, I mean, beats Corey Sandhagen, who's still a top-tier contender, beats Song Yadong last time out. Dealt with some issues in that fight, but it's like an untypical situation, right? How often is he in 3-round fights? Normally it's 5 rounds only for Yan. That's what he's built his career on. It's been a long time since he's fighting 3 rounds, and then last time he did, and he won. Yan's got precise boxing and snapping kicks, but that's not the reason that I think he's going to just win here. It's also his ability to scramble. Figueiredo, I will bet, is going to look to grapple a bit here. Because Petr Yan is going to be pretty quick in the striking department, I think he could sting up some counter shots on Figueiredo, forcing Figueiredo into wrestling attempts. Figueiredo's got a good single leg, and he's also got a decent double, but he could use it to drive Yan against the cage. But I think Yan's going to have good takedown defense. I think the hips will hold up. I don't think Figueiredo's going to like dominantly out-grapple him, and I kind of think that he needs that in this fight here. Because if it's just striking, as much power as Figueiredo might have, and I know he knocked Marlon Vera down, he's not necessarily a knockout artist at 135. He has 0 knockouts in the UFC bantamweight division. He hits hard. Deiveson Figueiredo, for a guy especially coming up from flyweight, can sting shots up. But I don't think that he's going to be sleeping Petr Yan. Could he catch him with a couple straights? Sure. Is it going to be a competitive fight? Absolutely, especially when Figgy is in that karate-esque striking stance. I think he's very dangerous with shots from the long range. But where I think Yan finds success is in the boxing realm. I think in closer range, he can get some shots off on Deiveson Figueiredo. Backing Figueiredo up and making him uncomfortable is going to be an interesting strategy, because I know Deiveson Figueiredo, I mean, he's able to bully a lot of these guys. He's able to pick people apart from the outside too, but a lot of people fear that Deiveson Figueiredo power. I don't see Yan having fear of the right hand of Figgy, fear of the straight of Figgy, I should say. I think that Petr Yan is probably going to eke this one out in a competitive fashion. First 2 rounds, I can see Figgy landing good shots. I can see Figgy landing takedowns. I can see Figgy making Yan uncomfortable. But 3, 4, and 5, you have to favor Yan's gas tank. Figueiredo, last time out, people say, oh, well, he didn't really look tired with Marlon Vera. Marlon Vera is a guy that fights at a considerably slow pace. And even though that was a 3-round fight, Marlon Vera only is really used to 5-round fights, but he fights at a very slow pace for a 3-round fight, and Figueiredo was able to outwork him, hit him with cleaner shots, and still have power late and, you know, do well in that fight in the later stages. Petr Yan, if he starts a little faster, I think the first round will be very much a feeling out process, but come second and third round, if Yan is mixing in combinations, pressuring Figueiredo a bit, Figueiredo's going to have to react, and I think the gas tank begins to dwindle, and then we have competitive striking exchanges, competitive grappling exchanges too. I don't think Deiveson Figueiredo is going to be able to body Petr Yan in grappling. And in the recent fights that he's fought at 135 pounds, he has had a substantial grappling edge, which he's been able to showcase. I think Petr Yan, being the younger guy as well, can win. It's like it feels like he's the old guy here. Figueiredo's nearly 37. He's going to be 2 days, pre-37 by the time they get in the cage. Whereas Yan is 31. And it's like I feel like people really been giving up hope on Petr Yan because of, the Marab loss. Like he beat Song last. Oh, he looked a little meh there. I don't know. I think he was hurting in that fight too. And he still was able to overcome some difficulty and win. Now, I recognize the betting odds are totally against with what I'm saying, and the people are picking Petr Yan. Yan's a pretty well-sized favorite. He's too big of a favorite. I wish the odds were closer. But I think it makes a lot of sense that Petr Yan defeats Deiveson Figueiredo on the judges' scorecards, man. I see him getting a decision. I'm expecting competitive striking exchanges. Figueiredo probably landing a couple of key straights. Yan's going to be able to land some big shots in close range. I kind of see him hurting Figueiredo a bit with maybe a lead hook or potentially a big shot over the top. And then I think that the kicks from the outside are going to be an interesting factor for Yan, but Figgy will be working teeps up the center. I'll guarantee it. I feel as though Figgy's going to look to wrestle, and where the confidence will dwindle is in the physicality of Yan fighting those takedown attempts off, and Petr Yan is going to be able to outwork him for 5 rounds. You can hear how I'm explaining it. This is no washout. This is going to be a competitive 5-round fight, so I'm trying to see it round by round because there's a lot of work to do in this fight. I think both guys are going to win rounds. I just think Figueiredo ultimately is going to win less. I think in a 5-round fight, you got to favor Yan in 4 and 5. If he can take 1, 2, or 3, he gets this decision. I think Yan is going to be a little higher volume because he knows Figueiredo likes to fight calculated. He knows Figgy hasn't fought a 5-round fight in a while. He's known that Figgy in the past in 5-round fights at flyweight has fallen apart a little bit later. And I think you got to favor Petr Yan. I actually think Petr Yan is going to land some ground and pound in the later stages of this fight too. I think Yan may go to the wrestling as Figueiredo gets tired. And I think Petr Yan outdogs Deiveson Figueiredo for a unanimous decision win. I'm going Yan getting it done, minus 355. Damn, it's wide as hell. At open, it was minus 275. It's been wide. Figueiredo plus 290. Forget about the betting odds. This feels like a really competitive fight. Even though the odds say otherwise, it's definitely a scrap. This is no, complete shutout. Minus 125 for the over 4.5, probably going into the later stages. I'm saying decision. So yes, I'll say it goes over. I think Petr Yan's going to win a decision. I think it's going to be 48-47. I think it's 3 rounds to 2. I think Figueiredo probably takes the first round. And then, second and third, it's up for debate. And then I think Yan probably is able to start really taking a lead in 4 and 5. Because I think Figueiredo will slow down. I even said it after the Vera fight. If you were watching the live stream, I said, man, if that's a 5-round fight, that thing could go differently. Because Figueiredo at the end looks a lot flatter. Even though he was able to still land a scintillating shot that dropped Vera in the damn 3rd round. That's a 5-round fight. 4 and 5, maybe Vera turns up and, Figueiredo ends up losing. Now, I'm doing a lot of bullshit talking like that. That's not the point I'm trying to get across. I'm not making excuses for Vera. I'm saying in this specific matchup, because it is 5 rounds, I have to favor Yan, who I think has a better gas tank and is able to fight with a more volume striking attack. And I also think he can showcase some wrestling in the later stages of the fight. So Petr Yan, 48-47, winning the decision to cap off UFC Macau. Holy hell. Those are my predictions for the full card. It's going to be a damn early morning, 3 a.m. live stream. That's going to be a lot of fun. Join me for the full card. I know there's going to be a lot of you savages awake, and I know my subscribers from, other parts of the world are probably enjoying fighting, or seeing the fights rather, on normal hours instead of having to fight to stay awake with these UFC cards being in strange hours for them. I get to be in your shoes for a weekend, and I know a lot of my Australia, New Zealand subscribers are excited about it. I appreciate you guys for supporting. Let me know what you thought of the picks in the comments. Another beautiful breakdown in the books. I had a lot of fun with this one. Smash the like button. If you guys are new, subscribe. I really wish they didn't have so many Road to UFC fights on it, though. Be very careful betting on these Road to UFC fights if you're throwing down. Please, do your own research if you're throwing cash down. I'm giving you my picks. I'm giving you my confident calls. I'm giving you everything that I'm thinking. But ultimately, the best way to succeed if you're, a D-gen gambler is doing your own research too. Not just being a complete D-gen and just avoiding that. I'm blindly tailing. So do your research, baby. If you're just here for the picks and the breakdowns and the previews, I hope you enjoyed everything I had to say about the fighters. And now you got a better idea of who these fighters are on the card. I'm looking forward to seeing how it all plays out in the cage. Thanks for watching, everybody. Much love. Smash the likes if you're new, subscribe, and turn those post notifications on. If you got nothing to say in the comments, W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.